we will start our journey by defining our types, but instead of types we will use interfaces. And first of all, I want to create our generic API response that is going to have the generic T. That T right there is because it should be checked on runtime instead of on compile time. And we will define how our API response will look like with data that is also the same type, status that is going to be number, status text of course string, headers unknown, and config unknown. I prefer to use unknown instead of any because it's more type safe. The next thing that we are going to define is our API error. Is going also to be generic, and we'll have of course a response that is going to be our API response of the same generic type T, and of course an error message that is going to be our type string. The next thing that I want to create is the make request function. It's going to be also generic and will handle all types of requests. So for this I will use as a first parameter the URL where we want to make the request, the method that we want to do, so it's going to be get, post, put, and of course delete. These are all the methods that HTTP requests are using, and of course we will receive or will not receive some data based on the error or not an error, and it's going to be of type unknown. And what will this function return? Well, it will return Axios promise, so you should also install Axios for this project, and it's going to be also a generic promise, Axios promise to be more precise. And for this we are going to use the Axios library where we should pass the config, and the config will create will be exactly the URL, the method, and the data. And if we somehow receive some errors, we can actually catch them and of course throw them in order to see it. And after we throw the error, we're gonna throw the error message, and after we put it on the message parameter, we're gonna also have the response in order to see with which type of error our request failed. And of course it should be as API error. The next thing is going to be, or more precise, are going to be our actually requests functions. So for this I want to create first of all our get, of course a generic get that will have an URL and will return an Axios promise. And this is very simple right now. What we are gonna do, we are gonna return our make request with the actual parameters that it is going to use. So for this is going to be the URL get, and of course we should also catch our error in order to see it later on. And after that we should throw it away. Not away, we will throw it in order to see it. And what we are gonna do, we are gonna simply make this typo first of all, and after that we are gonna copy paste this get function and duplicate it 3 more times, and simply just rewrite the name. So it's going to be post, and of course the method that we are gonna make with the make request is going to be post, the put method, and of course the delete method, the last one is not delete, sorry, is remove method, but is going to call the make request with the delete one. Right now we should actually define our interface that is going to be held, our data that we are going to receive. There are some sites that mock us some to-dos, so of course we will use a classic to-do. So a to-do interface with an ID that is going to be number, title string, and completed boolean. And we can move on to the actual application. So right now we can use a use state and to have some to-dos and a set to-do that is going to share our to-do previously created interface. And what we are gonna do, I want to see every time our actual to-dos that we are gonna use through the get. So we will use the use effect, and for this I'm gonna call my previous defined get that is going to hold some to-do array, And what we are gonna do, we are gonna pass, I will just simply copy paste the link, is going to be this JSON placeholder dot typicode.com, and after we receive it as an Axios response, we should then use the then syntax. And what we are going to do with our response, well, simply we are going to set to-dos to the response data, and in order to not have too many data, I'm going to receive just 10 data. Is of course enough for this video. And of course, as always, it's better to catch the error, and for this time I will simply console log it. Now it's time to actually see some data, and for this I will start my application, but first of all I must return the HTML, or more precise the JSX part that is going to be shown on the browser. So for this I will create an unordered list, and for that inside of it I will use the to-dos map in order to create all the elements. And how I'm gonna do it, I won't insist very more here on the CSS part, is just the demonstration. So for this, for every to-do, I will have a list that is going to have a key, that is going to be of course our to-do.id, because it should be unique, and inside of it I'm gonna put a simply span, and I will present the to-do title, and next to him I will present the to-do completed, and for the browser to be presented I'm gonna toString it. And if we check how it looks like, well, it looks horrible, but the datas are there. Right now we should finalize our project, so we simply will paste all the handlers in the JSX code. And for this, first of all, I will create a button that is going to have the onClick property, and it will gonna receive an anonymous function that is going to have our handle update to do. And what is going to have as a parameter, of course, the to do and the completed to do. It should be switched to the not to do completed. And let's close the button, but right now I have an error. Just a second. Okay. Yes, I closed the button, but I want to also name the button. So what I'm gonna do here is very simple. I'm gonna say something like, if our to-do is completed, I will write something like mark incomplete, and if it's not completed, I will change the button name to mark complete. And of course, it's time right now to close the button. And what I'm writing? Pretty funny. Okay, right now everything is okay for our handle update to do. And I want to create two more buttons, one for the delete and one for the addition. And the first one is going to be the delete button, and is going to be called, of course, delete, and it is going to have an onClick property. And what does this onClick property will receive? Well, it will receive another handle delete to do, and of course the to do that we are gonna delete. And what is going to be the last button is going to be the addition one. I will put it downward, so it's going to be named add to do, and of course the same thing as before, is going to receive an onClick that is going to have an anonymous function that will point to the handle add to do, and we will write something like new to do. And right now our application is completed. So if we click the mark to do, not the mark to do, the mark completed, you will see the change. We can add it, we can delete it, of course, and that was all. I hope that you like this video, and if you find it pretty interesting and you learn something new and you want to support this channel, I highly recommend to subscribe it, and of course to like this video. Thank you all for watching.